Eli Keszler is a New York-based producer, performer and percussionist, known for grand art installations and inventive compositions. Informed by improvisation and experimental noise, Eli Keszler utilizes unique techniques to create inventive motions of sound. You're tuned into Roots to Grooves.
Welcome to another episode of Roots to Grooves. I'm Jesse.
I'm Jay. Oh,
I was going to introduce you, Jay,
okay.
but I guess you already did it.
Get it right 1 week.
We are flying by the seat of our pants here on Roots to Grooves. We never know what's going on. We know some things, we don't know other things, but we're here to learn other things.
And sometimes we like to talk at length about things we have no idea about
Yes.
or comprehension of. And actually, that was a thing we got corrected on recently on an Instagram post that we had.
Yeah.
I think it was a clip of our episode on Deer Hunter, and I think you had like labeled it as being the guy from Dive.
No, some other social media guy that we have hired did that.
with Dive music underneath. I didn't throw you under the bus. I'm throwing you under the bus now.
I know, no.
But,
it all comes out.
yeah, and this one guy was like, "You guys don't know what you're talking about." He like at our private separate
added us.
Instagram accounts and all that. And I went in there. I was like, "Oh, no, this is a clip from the Deer Hunter episode." And then he was like, "Oh, that makes sense."
I see.
Well, thanks though, guy, for pointing it out. Whoever you are, I think you may be a Dive fan or a Deer Hunter fan,
Or a Cox fan.
Yeah, Bradford Cox. Was it Bradford or Brad? Yeah,
I wasn't talking about Bradford.
There we go. See, we're already digging a hole for ourselves right now with our inaccuracy.
Yeah. That's what we do here is inaccurate research. And anyway,
But this is a show, Roots to Grooves, about musicians, about artists, bands, solo artists, groups, projects, from the beginnings of their careers through to what they're doing now, through kind of navigating through their albums, their discography. Sometimes we don't go album by album because some of these artists have a lot of material out there.
yeah.
But I think we've been finding some good stories and some good mindset.
Yeah, because we want to
tips.
know how these people are getting things done, how their mind is organized in order to get it done,
Yeah.
and how they put these things together and create cool things that therefore inspire us all
Yeah.
through art.
Yeah.
And it's dope. So today we're talking about Eli Keszler.
Yeah.
I didn't really know about this guy until very recently, but he's a drummer, self-proclaimed percussionist.
Percussionist.
Okay. Procrastinist.
Yes, you almost said that.
I did.
It's not even a word.
That was rough, but I will get these words out eventually. But just really cool, polyrhythmic beats using different. He basically has like a drum set, but he uses different like bells and different items, almost like a type of prepared piano, almost like we were talking about prepared piano, but a prepared drum set.
Yeah.
Uses some, a kind of cool drum, like a conga or something, making really weird sounds. So basically he has like 3 or 4 albums out. He's like a solo artist and he makes ambient rhythmic percussion music. And so I discovered it when it was on a playlist or upcoming music or whatever, just playing. And I heard it and it intrigued me and I looked into it. It was this guy named Eli Keszler. Had no idea who it was. Listened to his Stadium album, just put that on in the background and it was just kind of super cool.
So that was I was going to ask what piece of music or song did you first hear?
Yeah,
it was off Stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to play a song from that album later on. It was, I think it was We Live in a Pathetic Temporal Urgency. And that one in the first song, Measurement, doesn't change the system at all. Interesting song titles, by the way.
Well, yeah. I thought you said something else completely.
No, yeah, I'm just,
I was like,
I said like 2 paragraphs, but they were just song names.
Yeah, I was like, what?
It's like, what is this guy talking
Exactly.
about? Measuring what? I missed some of the research.
Yeah.
No, but so super interesting stuff, but it's kind of ambient, rhythmic. I mean, I'm already repeating myself. What do you think about this guy, Jay?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was amazed that you had suggested this artist. I hadn't heard of him at all before, but I was surprised because it was kind of, it's sort of, I call it left field music. It's kind of like not left field, the group, the duo.
I didn't know that was a group.
Yeah, that's another episode. They're not around anymore, but left field is in, kind of unexpected and
Right.
and there's a couple of artists that it reminds me of. And you've opened the doors now to maybe us doing episodes on these artists as well.
I like these guys. I mean, it's kind of arty.
Yeah.
Like art music as much. It's certainly not pop.
Yeah. Well, Suzumu Yokota is a Japanese guy that does very similar-ish things. Completely different approach and mindset to his work.
Right.
But some of the things on, I think it was Icons. Is it Icons Plus, the album from
How it's
Eli
pronounced?
Keszler? Yeah.
I think it's just icons with that plus sign.
Okay.
But
that's an album from Eli Keszler, and a lot of that stuff reminds me of this album from Suzumu Yokota that I liked. And also Amon Tobin, who's an Italian guy who signed to Ninja Tunes. We mentioned him briefly on the Bonobo episode, I think.
okay.
And he does kind of beats, but he does a lot of what do you call it? Found sound. What do they call
Field recording.
field recordings? Music concrete, I think, is another way of saying this sort of thing.
Nice.
So yeah, Eli Keszler kind of reminded me of this stuff, and some of it was weird. As I was going through listening to Eli Keszler's back catalogue, there's some, we can talk more about it, I guess. There's some super long compositions, there's shorter things.
Mostly instrumental.
Yeah, it's not really the same, I don't feel like, throughout albums. But there's the one thing that is consistent is a lot of experimentation, no song structure, more mood and vibe and stuff like that, I think. Yeah, so it's kind of what I got from it.
No, I agree.
Also, but like actress as well, who's but he's on a different level as well. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah, no, totally. But Eli Keszler being an example of artists who are, like you said, left field, trying to do things like with a mindset involved. This guy he's used like the Brooklyn Bridge, like tying strings and stuff, doing, like installations, like like visual installations he does, and he composes for films, as we'll talk about. But he's done visual work. He's appeared in the Whitney Museum, Lincoln Center, Victoria and Albert Museum, Sculpture Center. It goes on and on. Eli, he's commissioned works for the Icelandic Symphony Orchestra, Ice Ensemble, Brooklyn String Orchestra. The list goes on. But yeah, he very inventive approaches to drumming.
yeah.
Like I said, he calls himself a percussionist. But large scale sound and art installations. Oftentimes, with other drummers also just doing ambient bell sounds, just weird stuff.
Yeah.
Out in the city with people watching.
Right.
So very cool. There's some cool videos. I'm watching him do his thing live just by himself too.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? I mean, he's an electroacoustic artist. Can we say that?
I wouldn't say that. It's not how I would describe it.
I mean, okay, well, we will differ a little bit, but I see him using acoustic instruments such as drums.
Yeah.
But also, like on his set, he uses these like sensors to turn it into MIDI.
Yeah.
And kind of, turn these acoustic sounds into electronic sounds, kind of cross that divide into the electronic realm.
Yeah.
To give it just more ambiance.
Yeah.
He uses a lot of acoustic sounds, right? But not a lot of what like different things to modulate the sound in a computer or in a DAW, for example. Like he uses reverb.
Yeah.
Just these basic things like compression, reverb, a little delay or something maybe, but he's not using a lot of synthesis.
No, that's something he said that it's just funny because some of his stuff sounds electronic, or a lot of it sounds electronic on the surface. But yeah, you're right. He's using a lot of organic instruments to create those sounds, and sometimes not even instruments. Sometimes like wires and stuff like that.
Right.
That are creating weird percussive things. And he says that he can't. Electronic stuff doesn't inspire him. He said he has to start with the organic sounds, and that's what grabs him. And so he said stuff like electronic processing is something that he shied away from because he couldn't figure out a way for it to maintain a raw, natural feel. But at this point, like he said, he's collaborated with a few other electronic artists. Like I think one of the people he collaborated with, he's doing drums live. The other guy's doing like electronic processing and stuff. And so he's been learning what that guy's been doing, and it's kind of like saying, he realizes, I don't know if he said this somewhere or I interpreted it, but like putting up a wall for yourself by saying I can't do that kind of thing. Whereas I think he's saying now is like that's how he has been in the past, and now he's been more exposed to the electronic side of things. He's trying to explore it more, but I think it's still the organic stuff that really inspires him, and
that's what really turns him on.
Yeah,
totally. So it's really cool just watching like some of his videos of him play live.
Yeah.
And he's just got these kind of bell things. I can't remember what they're called, but he's using like mallets on his snare drum that he said he's had since he's a kid.
Yeah, since 11.
And he's just like doing really fast stuff, like going slow, then going faster, just really fast rhythms.
Yeah.
Just creating a vibe, creating these sounds, creating this music.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. I was just going to say, I mean, that's as much of an overview as I can do.
Sure, yeah.
And then we can kind of go back and see where this guy came from.
Yeah, I thought it originally. I thought it said Brooklyn, but no, he's from Brookline, Massachusetts. I have not heard.
But it was confusing because he's been in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think
making
he
music.
Lives in New York now. Yeah, Brooklyn.
But yeah, Brookline.
Yeah,
how do you say that?
Brookline. Yeah, I don't know much about Brookline, Massachusetts. If you live there, write in. Tell us what it's like.
Anybody there?
Send a photo.
Postcard.
Send us a postcard.
But he was born there, began playing drums and composing when he was a teenager. I guess his family was pretty musical.
Yeah, his let me see. He said his dad was a musician, I think.
On the spot, checking on the spot.
So his mum was a professional dancer, and his dad was a self-taught guitarist and fiddler who often traveled to Brazil for the Peace Corps, and he'd return home with accordions and banjos and single-stringed instruments.
So he was definitely around music growing up.
Yeah, so he was like, his dad was definitely into music, and his mum was dancing, and his dad would always introduce him to all these crazy instruments, world instruments. You know? So he had that around the house, and I think, what was it, his age 8 or something like that, he started drumming. Was he 11?
I have it just as a teenager.
Okay, well, he started composing when he was 12, but I think he started playing drums when he was 8. He started learning the drums and then composed stuff at 12. So,
okay, so I mean, great, starting young.
Yeah.
What was he doing? Did he release anything else that early? Is there anything out there on the internet?
I don't know, but interestingly, he does have a history of being a punk drummer, like, is what I've seen. And I think still to this day, I think he still plays with some punk band in New York.
Okay.
On the side.
I thought I saw that somewhere too.
Yeah.
Some kind of punk influence.
Yeah. So he was doing that when he was a teenager. He was playing in all those like sort of rock music, punk bands, kind of thing around Boston. I think he, because I don't know how far Brookline is from Boston, but he went to college. England Conservatory of Music is where he studied in Boston.
New England.
New England.
Did you say that?
No. England. Oh, yeah, New England. Yeah, sorry, not England. I was reading like one line. New England.
New England is in the USA.
Exactly, yeah.
For us.
But
for you UK guys.
There's a Boston in the UK as well, I think.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
It's so confusing, Jay.
It's like a tiny little village or something.
It's so confusing. Now that the UK has exited
Europe.
Yeah. Can they join the USA? New statehood?
Become an additional state. controversial topic.
Thinking of ideas out here.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's a good one.
That means anyone from England could become president of the US.
Boris?
If that happened. Yeah, Boris. You know, well, Boris Johnson, Prime Minister of England, he was born in New York.
Oh.
So he was actually eligible to be president of the USA, except he renounced his US citizenship before he became Prime Minister.
That makes sense. His first name's Alexander, I believe.
Is it?
Yeah.
Alexander Boris Johnson?
Yeah.
Man full of mysteries. His real name's Alex, and he's actually American. And he's the Prime Minister
And
of
he's
England.
running the UK.
Exactly.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Anyway, Eli Keszler goes to New England Conservatory for school. He said he went in as a drummer and left as a formed musician.
A formed musician.
Yeah. So at least to himself.
Not a reformed musician. A formed.
No, formed. This was
What does that mean?
I'm just saying what I'm gathering is he felt like he was a formed musician.
Okay.
Like he'd kind of crossed that to the next level.
Okay.
Like I'm a drummer. I like music. I don't know what I'm doing. And then I guess he graduated and felt like, okay, I learned something. Now I kind of have an idea of where I want to go and how I want to go about things. And so I guess he did. He was inspired. He started designing performance installations.
Yeah.
Involving, piano wire motors, pickups, percussive sensory software.
Yeah.
And he started issuing limited CDs of his music through his label, REL Records, in 2006. That's what I have.
Okay. Nice.
And so he just started there, and he hasn't quit basically since.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like the art side of things has really taken a big front seat in his career. Like from what I was reading about him, to me, it struck me he's more of an artist than he is like a almost regular musician releasing albums or whatever.
Yeah, he's creating art through music, like most musicians are, but he's doing it in a little bit of a different way with a different focus.
Well, because it's not even really. He does performances, but a lot of his work has been kind of exhibitions, like they've been in like art galleries, right?
Yeah, it's not like a Eli Keszler performance. It's it's a performance installation.
Yeah,
it's like a event.
Yeah.
It sounds so similar to Beyonce's show is an event. You could say the same thing, but it's not the same thing.
But some of it's interactive as well, I think, because he was saying stuff about like I don't know the specifics of all this because it's a little bit. I kind of need to see a documentary about this or something.
I know, yeah.
To picture it. But like he was saying something about his use of wires and about how some music festival, and it was kind of an interactive thing where people walking over things were like creating the sound. And he was trying to put them out so far away that it would cause the people to have to wander like outside of the festival or something. But it was all part of like creating the sound and
I think that's what he's into is like using his surroundings and the world from objects used as a music instrument or using like literally the city almost as an instrument to the point of connecting wires to bridges and just making sounds under archways using the natural reverb and stuff like this. And in a lot of ways it does come up like it reminds me of Actress using the architecture as kind of a instrument in a way.
But I think like Eli, because with Actress he did do some field recordings, but the architecture thing, what was that, more of like a aesthetic inspiration, or was it like a literal thing? Because with Eli Keszler it seems a very literal thing. He's like literally going and using different materials to create sounds out of buildings and spaces and then recording that kind of thing. I'm not sure if Actress did that.
I think Actress more like saw like, the corner, those three walls coming together. I'm going to blast a sound into that corner and use that reverb or whatever. But then Keszler's like, I'm going to tie a string to that building. And pluck it. Does that feel good to say?
I think, So there's like some crossovers there a little bit.
That's what we're saying. There's some crossovers.
But architecture in music, it's a whole new concept and theory.
So there's these guys coming out here doing that. Mixing the architecture, which is an art in itself, and the music art in itself. And melding the two together. So really cool. So I don't know. I just like to listen to this weird stuff because it's really nice. I love me some Ariana Grande or Taylor Swift now and then. I love some good pop music.
Okay.
But then it's really nice every once in a while to get something like this where it's just way more vibey
Yeah.
and less formed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's formed very well, but it's not in your face chords.
No.
Stuff like this, you know?
I mean, it's kind of classical in a way,
Right.
even though it's not using classical orchestra instrumentation.
The art of it is a classical thing.
Yeah.
But he's using like modern techniques.
Yeah. Because I found it really nice to, like, especially the Icons album, to just put that on whilst I was like working, and it kind of like gave me a bit of focus to what I was doing. Like it made me, because sometimes, a lot of times when I'm working on something, I need silence. It's kind of strange. Like if I have music with words in it or like TV on, like it really distracts me and I can't figure out what I'm doing.
Yeah, same.
But with this music, it kind of like re-inspired me again to be like, okay, have I got to pick the right type of music, and it can help me focus more on what I'm working on, kind of thing.
No, I think that's a great point.
And that's kind of a byproduct of what he's doing. That's not his intention or anything, but
You're right.
I think, but yeah.
No, I got a sentence here. He said, his poise and concentration are the focus of the performances. Like not just the music and like, oh, I love this song.
Yeah.
It's like what he's doing actively.
Right.
He's alone on stage a lot of time when he's performing his own music, and he's using gestures and the digital augmentation to kind of ride through. Almost, I think I mentioned it like he's surfing a wave, kind of. Like it's an activity, not just let me present this song that I wrote 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like you're gonna watch me do this,
Right.
and performance art, I guess. So I don't know. I keep feeling like I don't really know what I'm talking about. It's because I don't.
But also, Eli Keszler is very abstract.
It is pretty abstract and it's pretty ambient.
Yeah.
But here's the sentence. So he said, I'm sort of like surfing on top of this system I've built. So it's really rewarding and interesting. It doesn't feel static at all. That's a Keszler quote. He says a lot of the times he starts with an idea that the music should retain and control some sort of atmospheric and emotional space for the listener. And he thinks, unfortunately, that's lost on a lot of contemporary music. But that's what he's trying to bring back.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's play another song.
Yeah. I was going to say that.
He comes, so he starts making music and stuff. The first thing he puts out is Catching Net album in 2012.
Although,
was there something before that?
Yeah, if you go on his Discogs, he has a massive discography of albums that are listed.
Okay.
So on like Spotify, I think Catching Net is the first one, but then he's had all these other ones like going back since 2006 on his own label. I think that was, you might have talked about that, right? The CDRs that he was doing. And
Right.
that. Like,
and he put those out himself.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's a ton of things out there, but I think they're all like some of these albums are just like 2 tracks that are 20 minutes long each or something like that. So just still longer than what people are releasing now. But like,
I mean, and all of this is unreleased material, or it's kind of like he just posted it out there, but it's not.
Well, he's been putting out music before like streaming platforms really
took off.
Because I know like iTunes, they started pretty early, right? I don't know, like early 2000s, something like that.
Yeah.
But then things like Spotify didn't come around till like much later, I don't think.
After 2010.
Yeah, exactly. So like, and this is something he said as well, because he stopped doing music for like 5 years at a certain point, and it was in amongst that change in the rise of streaming sort of thing. And the reason he stopped is because he questioned like what the value of a recorded piece of music was, like not monetarily, but like I think more kind of abstractly. He was thinking about
He's
this.
pretty esoteric.
Yeah. I think it was like a deeper thing that he was just, it just kind of paused, and it was just like, okay, now everyone has access to everything, like, and no one, and just song here kind of thing. Like, what is the value of like the piece?
Yeah.
It's like it's hard to explain, but I think you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys. But so yeah, he's like trying to take it to the next level. He doesn't want to just make a song and then release it.
Yeah.
Like he's digging deeper, and this is where the performance art comes into play.
Yeah.
He wants to like feel his performances like a cathartic event.
Yeah.
For himself as much as it is for the people.
Yeah.
Like part of the event of him performing is him feeling those feelings and creating those sounds and the vibe and the atmosphere and the mood along with the people watching.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff, I think a lot of the stuff that ends up on the album is, he's playing live.
Right.
And he's by himself.
Yeah.
But when he plays it in front of people, it's just got that much more uniqueness. Like I think he was saying, like you can't really recreate it. Some of the sounds he makes, things just happen in such a way.
Yeah.
Because you can see him in some of the videos, his bell things or whatever, are like there's little moments of imperfection where one is rattling a little bit more than, or he hits it hard and it picks up and then wobbles on the way back down.
Yeah.
Creating all these like randomized sounds.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to accurately recreate.
Yeah.
Besides not actually recording it and then playing it again.
Right.
So these things just kind of happen, and it's like a beautiful moment, and that's what he's trying to capture.
Yeah.
And then bring to the audience when he plays it live.
Yeah.
So very cool stuff. What do you got to play for us?
So you picked out this track from Cold Pin. Cold Pin 1. It's a 13-minute long track. Do you want to play the whole thing, or you just want to
I didn't realize
signal at a certain point?
the shortest song on this one is 9 minutes. So
on this album.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's
just get a taster.
get a taster. Cold Pin 1.
Don't turn it down. I was rocking out to that.
I know, yeah. We're nodding our heads.
That beat. You guys feel that beat? So
we jest, but I think it's kind of you should definitely hear it with headphones. It's like an enveloping sound.
Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It sounds like I don't want to. It sounds like a mess, like just like a lot of different sounds.
Yeah.
And he definitely has stuff that is a little bit more straightforward or simple at least.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But just to give an idea of what this guy's into.
So what we just heard, to give you a little bit of context and background, they said it was 2 years in the making. This comes from a full-length album, and it was a composition and a standalone installation. And the way that music was created is he said they had 14 strings ranging in length from 25 to 3 feet, all strung across a 15 by 40 curved wall with motors attacking the strings, connected by microcontrollers, pickups, and RCA cables.
He's just making stuff up. He's just
So
plugging
did you make
stuff.
those words up?
Yeah.
So he had all these motors and all of these strings creating that cacophony, and then below it,
Cacophony, good word.
yeah, and then below it, he did have real instrumentation. So there's a guitarist in there, there's clarinet, trumpet, which you can kind of hear in a little bit there, cello, bassoon. So that's like there, like beneath, like in that one at least. This cacophony of like crazy shit happening. That's like happening visually. It must be very crazy to see. Like it probably looks more simple than it sounds. I don't know, or something like that.
It's just it's interesting how ununiform it sounds.
Yeah,
And that's kind of what he's going for. And there's things that are happening, and he's playing parts that he feels or wants or likes that are repeating sometimes. But then this other aspect that's going on behind him, like the random motors are they're engineered to be like randomized. I think, right?
yeah. I mean,
Like
it's not completely random in the way where we just stuck it up on the wall and see what sound it makes. Like he's put some thought into it and done some experimentation. I think
like thoughtfully randomized, like engineered to be.
Yeah, it's like accidents. It's like a lot of. It's kind of the same with.
He's trying to recreate happy accidents.
Kind of, yeah. I think it's like he has an idea to do something using like these strings. He starts to do it, and then he'll hear the sound it's making, maybe make some tweaks, and then like through his tweaks, he'll get to an accident that sounds cool, and then he'll remember that and do that. So it's kind of like it's basically, I guess, like any art, right, or music creation. It's like, like we've all said time and time again, you don't. Like, any music you hear, there has to be a ton of accidents to get to that finished piece.
Yeah,
it's like, I'm going to put this piece here, or I'm going to put this chord here, or it's like, oh, I'm stuck, I don't know what to do in this part. Like, it's all composed. Well, Siri thinks that I did not say Siri.
we're recording a podcast.
Siri. They're listening to us. Apple are listening. It's the technology. I don't know. So he's kind of. It's just very. It's more of like an engineer, industrialist, or something.
Yeah,
just a musician.
Harnessing chaos.
Harnessing chaos. Yes.
So I mean, that's what this guy's up to. It's interesting.
Out of chaos comes order.
Yeah, entropy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I say we just zip through some of this stuff. We're not going to play a song off of every album. So like, obviously, some of this stuff is wild. He has like 15-minute songs that sound like that. Sound like you're in a closet, rumming, like in a janitor's closet, and it's in the dark and you're locked in.
You're like stepping over brooms.
Yeah,
and
there's
stuff like that.
and like a snare drum, and there's a cello in the corner. I don't know. Anyway, but this guy's really cool, and some of the stuff is. I'm excited to play some more stuff off this other album.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if we can go straight up into the. Let's talk about how he makes the music a little bit.
Okay.
Like, what is he using in terms of DAWs, like equipment and stuff? I see he uses Logic and Ableton, and he keeps things really simple. He doesn't use a ton of built-in compositional tools. Like I was saying, mostly sticking to microphones and aligning things and coming up with patterns and editing.
Right. Okay.
So just the basic, simple stuff, making sounds and then putting them where you want them.
So he's pretty much traditional recording. He doesn't really use the computer for much at all, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Just to get the recordings down, basically.
There's some simple edits. Yeah.
And he says he also mixes his own records.
Okay.
So I think he's kind of learning, but he said he's been getting better.
Yeah.
But yeah, he works with an engineer who I think ends up mastering it for him. And he said the mastering, I think his name is Nolan Thies.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if that's right. I'm sorry, but it's Nolan.
Yeah.
And he said that he gets the music from Eli, and he just has to kind of tweak it a little bit. He doesn't have to do a lot to get it to that final form. He said, I work at home and I get my records probably like 85% or 90% to where I want them. And then he sends them to Nolan to just knock out the last little bit to make it really, really pretty. But I guess I got a little bit of a setup. He has 4 sensors on the acoustic snare. One on the acoustic snare, one on the rack tom, one on kick drum, and one on the mesh drum. I think that's like that conga kind of thing.
Yeah.
Some kind of drum. 3-channel foot switch for MIDI controls. A Signl morph. I wrote that down, but I don't know what it is.
Signl morph.
Signl morph, yeah. Various Zildjian dream cymbals.
Yeah.
We heard of those.
Yeah.
Jay's a drummer. Yamaha or Gretsch backline drum set. And then crotales, various custom small cymbal. Oh, that's what those little cymbals that he puts on the snare are.
Right.
I think crotales.
Yeah. They look like tiny little weights, circular.
They look
things.
like a paperweight or something.
Yeah. But he said they're all tuned differently. They have different notes out of them.
So like slightly different sizes.
Yeah.
And like they're like bells, kind of.
Yeah.
Similar.
Which he uses. I saw him. He has them rested. Like he'll have 3 of them on his snare drum. He'll have some fabric on his snare drum, and then 3 of these things on it, and then he'll be using soft beaters to sort of just randomly create these sounds and stuff.
ProMark
Yeah.
sticks.
ProMax.
Okay.
You even know what sticks he's using.
Yeah. I had to zoom in on the YouTube video.
Okay. Yeah. Blow it up.
Oh, it's enhance. ProMark. Yeah, that's what I got on his setup. So he keeps it pretty simple.
Yeah.
And he just goes for creating weird sounds, and how he uses his equipment is what's interesting.
I have a quote. He said, "I'm really interested in technology, and I see it as something that can be harnessed for incredible things. Unfortunately, what it does a lot of the time is it has a tendency to stare at itself and close itself off. More and more music gets pushed into the computer simply because it's convenient." So that was kind of like a bit of his perspective on when it comes to using the computer and his setup and stuff like that.
I mean, he's just very dynamic and kind of like not. I almost want to say polarizing, but he's like using this technology, like his sensory software, to convert things into like MIDI and stuff. Yeah, but also like being like, I just want to make acoustic, organic instruments. Yeah, vibrations with these acoustic instruments, and then put them in. And see what I can create like that. So he's kind of like going from both ends, meeting in the middle. Yeah. Dynamic.
Yeah, definitely.
So cool.
Song. We were going to play a song. Should we play another one?
Let's play another song. Maybe a little bit. Do we have one that's a little bit more like listener friendly?
I don't know.
Well, we have one prepared from the next album he released.
Last Signs of Speed is the album.
12 songs, 2016 came out.
Oh, yeah. He does have some... Yeah, there's this other one I really liked from another album. We Live in a Pathetic Temporal Urgency from Stadium.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, that's one that's the most... Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we go? Let's go straight to it.
Let's do it, yeah.
Okay.
This is a little bit more listenable.
So this is the album that I discovered this guy on.
Okay.
And this was what kind of turned me on to him.
Yeah.
Let's.
All right.
Further ado.
We live in a pathetic temporal urgency.
That's
the
all I
name.
could think about when I was listening to that.
It's the name of the song. Composition, not even I wouldn't call any of his music songs, but compositions.
No, totally. Yeah, he's a composer.
Yeah, from his album Stadium. And yeah, that's kind of where some of people have described him as freeform jazz. You can hear that in that.
Yeah, totally.
yeah.
It sounds like scary jazz.
Scary jazz. Haunting. It reminds me a little bit of Bernard Herrmann's soundtrack for Taxi Driver, which we've referenced in like a couple of episodes.
Yeah.
Different people have mentioned that music. Reminds me of that a little bit. Also,
Oh no, go for it. You had
I was going to say about his reading and his books that he references. He's had a lot of literary references in a couple of his albums.
okay.
This one, Stadium, I think there are some spoken word pieces at some point in the album. Did you hear that in it at all? Throughout?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I was hopping around a little bit.
Okay. So basically, there's this one book that he came across. It's called The Hatred of Music. So now we're talking about the hatred of music. Perfect segue to what you were going to say.
Yeah. No.
That's interesting. Apparently, this is guy, a French guy, that was a curator of like operatic music festivals and Baroque and Renaissance stuff. Mm-hmm. I know that long ago, like in the 1990s. And he released this book in 96 called The Hatred of Music. It's a series of short pieces about the relationship between violence and music, from the way instruments are crafted out of a lot of pain, like using animal parts, to how music has been used in war. And so Eli said about this guy, he has a lot of contempt for the contemporary world. And he thought it was interesting and beautifully written, almost poetry. And, you know, it was kind of like, it was talking about the violence in music and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Very deep, crazy. I don't think, Eli said he doesn't really, align with a lot of this author's position on this stuff, but it's something that's interesting this is another big thing that Eli thinks about, is like, we have to listen to each other, like, and not, put up walls between people because they have a different opinion of us, like, than us about something. We should listen to each other, and even if it's an opposing view and something that we don't jive with, like, it's important to listen to it, which is something I agree with a lot. Like,
I mean, I'd be hard pressed to find somebody who wouldn't agree with that.
I think though a lot of people don't listen, like, especially in like our modern like political climate.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like off the cuff, if you talk to somebody one-on-one, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm a well-rounded person. I'll listen to this perspective and this perspective." But in the real world, people are shut off, or they're in these echo chambers on Facebook, or not actively trying to hear other people's opinions. Which is important. You kind of have to go after looking for it sometimes.
Because like one thing I thought about because I'm like, I don't vote. In America, I'm like in the middle. Like I'm not Republican or Democrat. I'm like no party.
Me either.
I don't have any affiliation with any political party.
I'm part of the Roots to Grooves party.
Exactly. So, and one thing that worried me is this, like, if I'm going to lean towards any ideas at all, it's more Democratic than Republican.
Sure.
But like, the one thing that worries me is that like there are crazy views on each side, and also like not listening to each other. And I'm not talking about political parties. I'm talking about citizens, because like when Trump was president, a lot of people on the Democratic side immediately were like, dismissed him. Everything he says is bullshit. Like, okay, yeah, that might be the case, but I think it's really dangerous for you to decide that someone who's saying something, especially in a position of power, for you to just suddenly by default just like say everything they say is wrong, and because then you're not listening. Like, you're just. And I think that's dangerous. No one listened to me when I had that point of view either. I was like, I told people, in bars, friends or whatever, like, having conversations, I was like, I think it's really wrong for everyone to just not be listening to him. I think you got to, like, he's the fucking president, whether you like it or not, you got to listen.
Yeah.
And this is one of the big factors that Eli talks about within his music and using these concepts in his music because he's not a singer or a lyricist. So his way of like pulling in these ideas is through like references to books and other art that exists and stuff like that. I think,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Great observation.
Yeah.
He is. So he's doing a lot of good work,
Yeah.
at least for himself,
Yeah.
but being an example of searching out other opinions.
Yeah.
Even just as far as music goes, how can I do this in a more unique way?
Yeah.
And kind of to bring it back to the album we're discussing, Stadium. He recorded this in collaboration with the city. I think he said himself, like the city as an experience, and he was aiming to like wander around and capture the essence of the vibe and the mood of where he was living. I think it was Brooklyn. Is it New York where he's at right now?
I think that's where he lives now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
East Village.
Right.
Is that a borough in New York? Is that a whole town or what?
I don't know my New York
Neither do I.
geography very well,
East
unfortunately.
Village.
Yeah.
Look it up later. But yeah, this album's like harmonically a little bit of a departure.
Yeah.
Because there's almost a hint of melody,
Right.
almost some notes you can hear.
What? What did you just say?
I know. You're just listening to Keszler, right?
Yeah,
There's no-
exactly. Yeah. We're about the same artist still. No.
But yeah, the album's invigorating. It's ambient, syncopated rhythms, some repetitiveness,
Yeah.
which we all love because samples.
Yeah.
Hearing them over and over again, it just kind of patterns.
Yeah.
That's what we look for as humans.
Yeah.
But it's eerie, it's claustrophobic as we heard in that one, but it's detailed and it's textured. So I think he's really hitting his stride on this one.
Yeah.
This is where I discovered him, so I was pretty hyped on it.
Yeah.
I feel most strongly about this one. I'm most familiar with it, but I'm just another one of us who's just heard about Eli Keszler.
Yeah.
But pretty cool stuff.
So a little bit more about that. This recording a stadium that you touched on. Something I found. Like is the Carpenter Center? That's what you mentioned. No.
I didn't say that. What did I?
Okay.
Who is that?
He was given. I don't know. This might be something else, but he was saying that he did an installation a couple of years ago at the Carpenter Center, Harvard's contemporary art space, designed by Le Corbusier. I've heard of that architect's name.
I have
before.
not.
But basically, he was saying that,
Corbusier?
yeah, Le Corbusier.
La Caboose?
Le Caboose. He's famous. I've heard his name referenced in documentaries and stuff like that.
I'll take your word for it.
And they said they're in this space, the Carpenter Center, and they were looking at ways to mount speakers in the space, but it's like a historic building. So there's like a bunch of rules about...
No, just hammering.
Yeah,
and-
you can't just like, all that sort of stuff.
Fair enough.
They said they were kind of struggling, and then they said they looked up at the ceiling and they saw these grates that were there. And they said they asked the building manager if there were speakers, because they kind of looked like a PA system. And she didn't know. They basically eventually found out that there's this old archaic like PA system that was built into the place, kind of thing.
Wow.
And so they were able to like basically drill a hole into like a wall kind of thing, and they pulled out all these old cables that the system connected to, and they hooked it all up to their gear, and that's how they like, I think, recorded sound or got sound into the space, because it was like part of an exhibition or something like that.
Very cool.
Just
It's like physically integrating your space.
it's like he's like at this point he's like an architectural archaeologist as well as a musician.
I mean, that's some, it's very cool to know that there was that history involved in creating those vibrations.
Right. Yeah.
Nuts. I mean, nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
Anything else on Stadium?
No. Sorry. I just wanted to put all my stadium stuff out there.
I know it's his best album. No, I'm just kidding. But he continues on.
Yeah.
His stuff doesn't stray too far from what we've described.
Yeah.
As far as I know. His next album, Icons, has some good stuff. We can play maybe another snippet of that. The next thing, I don't know. What do you want to do? Play another song straight off?
Yeah. I think I don't even know what this sounds like anymore. I should have written notes about the songs, but there was some stuff I felt like he went a bit drum and bassy on the drums.
Yeah. Okay.
On some tracks.
Do you have something to play?
Yeah, I think it was off Icons, but let's see if I'm correct here.
Experiment.
It wasn't this
I don't
one.
know about drum and bass on this one, but I do know what you're talking about. I think he does have some where there's kind of, it feels like there's a beat or it's at least going faster.
All right. Yeah, found it.
Rewind. You
Stadium.
got one that you were saying before that was a little drum and bassy?
Yeah, off of the album Stadium. Measurement doesn't change the system at all.
Sick.
Yeah, that was good.
That song's a banger.
That was a banger. Yeah,
Like legit. That one's fun to listen to.
definitely. Yeah,
And it just kind of is great.
yeah.
Like I really like that one. That was also off Stadium.
Yeah. I kind of want to circle back for a minute on something I was trying to talk about earlier, but didn't quite get out.
Let's dive in.
About the streaming stuff, about how he took a break from making records for 5 years.
Okay. Yeah.
The exact thing is what he said about this. He took time up. He said until streaming became ubiquitous, because he saw a lot of people walking around with earbuds navigating their spaces. So of all the things, he like witnessed people walking around on headphones, and that like inspired him to think about how they were navigating their spaces whilst listening to a soundtrack of their own sort of thing. Because he said for a while for him, it was unclear for him what the role of recorded music was. So not the value. I said the value. He said the role. The role. It's kind of a different thing. Similar-ish.
Sure.
Different concept kind of thing. Yeah.
Distinctive.
Yeah. And yeah, he said like he's someone that likes to wander around. He likes to take long walks and kind of, listen to his own music as well. And like, so it was,
Wandering.
the wandering
Like that.
aspect of,
And like that seems like it comes up, or it seems like a good fitting word to describe how it feels to listen to his music. And I feel like he's also inspired by that. Like you just said, he's thinking about that, how it's affecting other people.
Yeah.
And then he's trying to bring that to his music.
Yeah.
Like, the essence of the city, like the mood, the atmosphere, and how to recreate that weird vibe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, very cool. And I think he's successful in doing it.
Yeah.
The way his instruments, they work with each other and the weird sounds, how they blend and morph together into like a weird, cacophony, to use Jay's term, or amalgamation of amalgamation of cacophony.
Yeah. That's the good way. That's the genre.
Yeah. Eli Keszler. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so cool stuff. Wandering. I like it, Jay.
I think the other thing about him as well is he said he doesn't like to analyze what he does, and if anyone asks him what his music is about or sounds like, he said he slowly tries to walk away.
Oh, I did see that interview too. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, yeah, because I think he said if he like thinks about what he's doing too much, it's going to ruin it for him, or or overcomplicate it, kind of thing. He's just very much someone that seems to just be like, I have an idea and I'm going to explore it. I'm going to see where it goes, where it takes me, and then move on to the next thing. He said like ideas, he said for him are very easy to come by and very quick. He said though the execution of it is what takes longer. Like, the seeing it through to the end, because he said like his idea is great, but then once he starts working on something, he'll have a million different like variations or things, sub ideas within the idea kind of thing. Like, he didn't say it in that way, but that's kind of like what he was getting at, I think.
Totally.
It can, so takes him a lot of time to work through the process, I guess. Like, from the idea to the execution. Yeah.
I think he takes that on, like the exploration process, like you said, like that's what we're listening to.
Yeah.
Is Eli Keszler exploring this idea.
Yeah.
And every track is like a little bit of a different idea, and a little bit of, he's exploring something slightly different.
Yeah.
And
so I would listen to his brain or something.
Yeah. Exactly.
Except it sounds spontaneous, but it's not in a way. It's planned out to a certain
controlled
extent.
Spontaneity.
Yeah, that's another terminology. We got all these like phrases.
Eli Keszler's given it to us.
Exactly. Yeah.
But and goes to show, look what we're learning from this different way of doing music.
I feel like this has been a very sort of like, there's lots of disparate ideas. Maybe it's just like who he is and the information that's out there, and this is what we're gleaming from it as well. I feel like he's one of these guys where we need to take all the bits of information he said and really like try and piece it together a little bit more succinctly, to figure out, because he doesn't have like a clear, like in all the interviews you read and stuff out there, there's no like clear through line about what he's trying to do or say or anything. It's all very much.
I'm sure that's how it comes across during this podcast. When
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't think it's us. I think it's actually
it's him. It's Eli's fault. No, but I think that's very true. That's a great observation.
Yeah.
And I think that holds up. I think that'll hold up in court.
Yeah, if anyone plays this episode in court of law,
as evidence,
it wasn't us, sir. It was the music of Eli Keszler.
Yeah, he did this to me.
It's the hatred of music that he's referencing.
I do agree though, but this music is powerful in its own right.
Yeah,
it stands up on its own. It has. He's obviously he's not doing this to be a pop star or for fame or anything like that. There's not a lot of info or interviews online. He's not going to galas and he's not doing anything weird. He's not in the tabloids about being a weirdo.
No. Which is interesting because sometimes we talk about the career aspect. Maybe not so much. We talk mostly about the creativity, and not so much about the business side of things. Mm-hmm. But I was wondering he seems to be someone that might be making more of a living out of doing the art portion of it, probably grants or something like that for doing these, or commissions for doing these.
I'm sure,
exhibitions and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I would agree. That's just a guess, speculation.
Speculation, yeah. Versus putting out albums and going on world tours. It's not that type of artist. He's a composer, there are very few composers these days that aren't. I mean, we can say he did do one film soundtrack, but it looks like it was a indie horror movie or something like that. It wasn't a big movie or anything like that.
And that's the last thing that he has up on Spotify, that's released on Spotify at least.
Yeah.
After Stadium and Icons.
Yeah.
Icons was 2021, so that's pretty new.
Okay.
That's pretty fresh.
Yeah. That was a really good album, Icons. I think Icons and Stadium are probably the two most listenable albums you could say of his.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Kind of. I would start with either one of those albums if you're trying to get into this guy. Check out Stadium or Icons.
And there is some interesting stuff on. So the soundtrack is for the Scary of 61st.
So it's the original motion picture soundtrack.
I didn't read much about it other than there's someone masturbating to a picture of a royal family member at some point in this movie.
Okay,
it's supposed to be a weird.
That's what that was into the synopsis.
Yeah, it was.
And something bad happens.
I don't know how many Rotten Tomatoes it has, but we'll see.
You tell us. Anybody seen that movie?
But there's some weird. Yeah, this musically though, there's some. It's probably his most conventional stuff
off this soundtrack.
Yeah, where he's I think there's some synths in there and stuff like that. I feel like it's more soundtracky.
Okay.
Yeah.
But cool. I like where he's heading based on Stadium, Icons, and then some of the soundtrack stuff.
Yeah.
I think he's getting, I don't want to say more poppy, but a little bit more, formulated to where it's a little bit more easy for a regular music listener to get it.
Yeah.
Because that first song we played, besides the song at the start of this podcast, the first one we played after that, pretty wild. It's pretty just sounds. Really unformulated. Not poppy. No vocals, anything like that. And he's getting a little bit more listenable. As he's going, but it's still very much Eli Keszler. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. I wonder how much of that came out of COVID and lockdown stuff, Icons, because that's definitely a period for him where he couldn't have done any exhibitions or real life interactive experiences and stuff like that.
That's true.
So it's probably speculation. He probably spent more time at home in the studio working on stuff that way, kind of thing. Because he does bounce between, studio stuff and these albums that are recorded in spaces, which is fascinating by itself. If you have the context, if you have the description of the recording about where it was made and how, it's crazy. Yeah.
One thing I was going to say earlier, when we were talking about his equipment and stuff, and his early life, he's another artist, and he started recording on his dad's Tascam 4-track recorder.
Welcome to the 4-track club.
4-track
Eli
club.
Keszler.
Yeah, so he said that dates him a bit.
Right.
Yeah. And then he does use Pro Tools, I guess, as well. But like I said, he also uses the other DAWs, Logic and Ableton. So
Nice.
take that for what you will. That's basically all I got on Eli Keszler.
Yeah.
I think we did him justice.
Definitely some stuff to check out. I want to see if there's any videos of any of the exhibitions he's done or anything like that. Or
I think I did watch some live videos of him like under a bridge with audience members and other musicians.
Yeah.
Definitely some cool stuff. I highly recommend checking it out for anybody.
Yeah. Definitely good. Definitely different type of artist.
Yeah, and I dig that.
Composer. There aren't too many composers out there doing crazy stuff like this, or maybe they are and we just don't know of them. So if you have any suggestions,
We're here to discover them.
yeah,
Along with you guys. We're all here in this together.
well,
But if we're good, you got anything else, Jay?
no.
You got a song to play out?
You picked out The Accident.
I picked it out. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, this has been Roots to Grooves. I'm Jesse. This is Jay Purcell, founder of Signl Radio. Let us know if we have any corrections. We've been getting hit hard with corrections. One big one. Let's blame it all on the social media guy. But yeah, if you got anything at all, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was awesome learning about Eli Keszler with you all. If you got anything to say to us, hit us up at the email, Jay.
All right. Roots to Grooves at signalradio.com. That's SIGNL radio.com.
Roots to Grooves is a production of Signal Radio. For more music and independent culture, visit signalradio.com. That's signl radio.com.